Spoiler alert, we're unpacking the whole plot, twist by twist. If you're spoiler sensitive, hit pause and come back when your TBR list catches up. Cheers!
Welcome to the podcast where our reading habits are unhinged.
And so are we.
I'm Gabby.
I'm Miranda.
And this is Marginally Unwell.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. Today is looking a little different. We are recording separately for the first time, so bear with us as we kind of figure this out as a new challenge, but we're super excited for this episode because it is our holiday book swap.
Yes.
In the last episode, we gave each other a book. We swapped gifts. We chose books for each other.
Yes.
So we are basically gifting each other a read for Christmas. I don't think either one of us had read the book prior, so it was just kind of like vibes of what we thought the other person would like, what we know of each other, and so seeing how well we really know each other's tastes.
Yeah, without vetting the book beforehand.
Yeah. So it's interesting. It's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So grab a blanket, some cocoa, and join us as we unwrap our literary gifts. So let's kick it off with why we chose these books for each other. So the book that I chose for Miranda was Wild Dark Shore by Charlotte McConaughey. Yes, she has it there. So I've not read this book, but I was like going through stuff, and one of the big things is I know she loves a good like thriller mystery type, and I was reading through stuff about it, and it said also that there was an element of romance in this, which Miranda likes romance, and so I thought that was really interesting. I also was just kind of excited about it because I'm not a romance reader, and so I thought it might be interesting if it was more like thriller romance instead of kitschy like Hallmark movie romance. So I thought it was kind of a different vibe for romance, but still thriller. I don't know, it just seemed interesting in that aspect of like different types of things that you like. And I don't really think you see romance in a thriller a lot unless it's like psychotic romance, like people obsessed with each other, you know? And so that's kind of why I thought that you would maybe really enjoy this if there was like a romantic story, but also it's on the edge.
On the edge. That is a really good reason to choose the book. I love thrillers. I also really like romances. I like all kinds of romances, even the cheesy Hallmark, you know. So, thank you. I appreciate the thought behind. But yes, thank you.
Yeah.
So, I got Gabby the book Carrie Soto is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid. She is there, yep. Beautiful.
Yes.
I really liked the cover. Honestly, I chose that one specifically. Gabby's not a huge gold fan, but I was like, I like it too much.
I'm not, but it's like straight gold. It's giving goddess.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But this author, I really, really like this author. I've read 3 of her books. Gabby has read one of her books, and she really enjoyed that. I also really liked this premise of this specific one because she's a tennis player, and Gabby likes tennis, and she's also very competitive. And it was a getting back competitive contemporary. She's been getting into contemporary reads. So I thought this would check a lot of boxes that she probably wouldn't have chosen, like, you know, outside of it, or would have stumbled upon it eventually. But that's why I chose this book for Gabby. That's why I chose it for you.
I love that. Those are all great reasons. I don't know that it's something I would have picked up on my own. Like maybe eventually. I do really like Taylor Jenkins Reid. I read Daisy Jones and the Six, and I loved that. It was so good, and I still have Atmosphere on my TBR that I really want to read. I've heard great things.
Love it.
And yes, I love tennis. I love tennis so much. And as she said, I'm very competitive, and this is like a coming back out of retirement story of a tennis player. And so yeah, I don't know that it's something I would have picked up, but I'm glad I did. I'm glad she got it for me because yeah. So now we'll just kind of go back and forth. Well, you're gonna ask me some questions, and then I'm gonna ask you some questions about the book, and so we can kind of go through it. So it's not gonna be our normal format that we do of kind of like unloading the whole thing, but more just like our thoughts on the book and different aspects. So why don't you hit it with some questions for me?
Absolutely. I don't know how I did that.
Lots of her.
It just came out. Okay, so let's talk about Carrie Soto's intense ambition. How she balances confidence and arrogance, and whether you found her likable or just fascinating.
So I do not find her to be a very likable person, which is really sad because I related to her so much.
That is a question for a therapist.
Yeah, that may be something I need to look a little further into. See, it's not... Okay, let me rephrase that. I would like her. I don't know to the, like, general people, like, would like her. She is very direct and just says what she thinks, and she knows what she wants. She's obviously been playing tennis since she was really little. It's all she's ever wanted, so she's very focused on that, and pretty much anything that's not to get her to that goal, it doesn't matter. And so I found her very interesting, and I really like her, but I don't think that she would be very likable. What was the other part? Balances confidence and arrogance.
Yeah.
I will say, as much as she was super competitive, I didn't find her really arrogant, and I think a lot of that came from, so in the book, her dad is actually the one who coached her whole life. And I think that because he's her dad, he also taught her a lot of lessons about, like, being a good sport and not bringing so much of that arrogance in, but just, like, showing people on the court or, like, letting it, like, roll off you. But some people can perceive that as, like, being cold and things like that. So I didn't really find her arrogant. I just found her very confident, and she had the skills to back it up. But I found her character super interesting. So.
Okay, so you're saying that she wouldn't be likable to the masses, that she'd be likable to her own, like, group. She'd have to find out people.
I feel like her fans would be like diehard fans. Like, people who like her are gonna, like, go to battle for her, basically. But if you can't understand somebody like that, I feel like like I said, I feel like a lot of people perceive that as, like, coming across as, like, cold, or people don't like when people are too direct and blunt. And so I feel like that can make somebody not likable to the general public, I guess.
Makes sense.
But yeah.
Okay. The drive for greatness versus the cost of it. What does the book say about identity after fame or success fades?
So I think she does really... This is where kind of the story picks up, right? Because it first kind of comes in with her as a little girl, and she's starting to play tennis. She goes on to have this massive career. She breaks, like, all these records, all the things. But that's really, like, the very short first section of the book. And then it's about how she has now retired and is wanting to get back into it. And so I think her going through that was really an identity crisis, because she literally worked her whole entire life for this, like, dream. And as I said, her dad also coached her, so she felt, I think, a lot of weight for that too. Like, it was also his dream. And so whenever she wasn't doing that full time anymore, wasn't moving towards those goals, I think she lost a little bit of who she was. And what really sparked it was there was another tennis player not up and coming, she was pretty big, but basically it was threatening like one of her biggest records.
Oh.
And that's why she decided to come back, because I think she thought that like she didn't want to be erased from it, because like that's who she was. She was like the best of the best, and if somebody else broke this record, then like she's going to be forgotten in the sport and the industry that she literally worked her whole life for, and then who would she be?
Yeah.
And so then I think so that's what sparked the comeback, and then I think through that finding herself as an adult and having to like readjust as a different player, being older, coming back, playing different players than she, had grown up playing, like all these things. And so it caused a lot of internal growth as well going through that. But I think it was for sure big identity crisis, and then it was less about the fame and just like proving to herself that she is who she is, and like she was great even if somebody comes along and breaks her record one day. And so I think in the comeback story, it was less about the fame and more about being grounded in who she is and knowing, like, herself.
Gotcha. So a little bit of found identity within that journey.
Yes. Yeah.
That's nice. I might read it.
I recommend. Even if you don't like tennis, like, it's a really good story.
Mm-hmm. The tennis was just the what is it called? The journey of the story.
Yeah, because I mean, theoretically, this could have gone on to any sport.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Gotcha. Taylor Jenkins reads. My gosh, Taylor Jenkins reads. Signature. A sports commentary meets emotional depth. Did it pull you in even if you're not into tennis? So
okay, I really can't say that because I am into tennis, so I don't know. I feel like it would. It was really interesting. So basically throughout it, there was like you would hear commentators at an event. They had these sections of them like going through everything. And so they're at different opens and stuff like that, different tournaments, and so they're like going over the different players and like what's happening and stuff. But I feel like it brought a whole other layer, especially to people's perception of her as a person. There's one, this is a spoiler, but there's one part where one of the commentators thinks that he's off the air and he calls her a bitch. And so like that was such a big point, and it's just like so crazy to me because that, like I was saying earlier, like that's how people perceive you because like you are just very straightforward. And I don't think she was a bitch at all. And I think that people just didn't like that she was great and knew she was great and did what she wanted. So I really liked the commentary aspect of it. I think it brought another level to it because it really gave you other perception versus just like her feeling like people perceive her as that. It was really like, this is how a lot of the world sees her. Mm-hmm. And I also thought it was cool because, so something super interesting about this book that I thought was funny was they actually named a lot of real tennis players, like real life tennis players. But then it was funny because this was also set in the same world as Daisy Jones and the Six, mm-hmm. because she at one point talks about like reading a memoir about them. Like, so it was like they were in her world, but then also it was our world, and so it was interesting to see like those two collide like that.
Awesome.
Yeah,
I like when they do that kind of.
Yeah. Also, like kudos to the author for plugging her own book in her book.
Honestly, though, she's like, I'm gonna get this ad out one way or another.
So, I thought that was funny. I think it was good too that I read Daisy Jones first, because then I was like, oh, hey, yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So going into relationships, Harry's bond with her father. How does that mentorship and love shape her career and personal life?
So I think in a lot of different ways, like I was saying earlier, specifically with coaching, I feel like you can coach your own child a lot different than you would coach somebody else's. And I'm not saying that like you can't. I feel like a lot of coaches teach life lessons, but there is a different aspect whenever it is like directly your parent. And so, like I said, I think that seeing that relationship helped her a lot. But then also, she had a moment of crisis during her, like the end of her, like, so before she retired, like towards the end of that part of the career, they really hit a wall because like he was trying to still like parent her into making good decisions, but she was like wanting more and more and more at that point, and basically like shut him off and went and hired a new coach. And so it was weird to see like that dynamic shift of like coach and parent to just parent. And but I think that I think that she also had the drive in her so much. Like I said, it was his dream too, but she grew up like around the courts because her dad coached other players like when she was younger and things like that. And then her mom had also passed whenever she was very young. And so I think she was like always looking for that validation with him, and like also seeking like this validation from a mom who wasn't there, like would she be proud of me type of thing. And so kind of seeing her navigate through that was interesting, and I think that it really impacted her career a lot. I don't think she would have been the tennis player she was without it, but then at the same point, like realizing what she had as a coach with her dad, I don't think would have brought her back like it did either. So it was like her realizing that like he really did have her best interests as like somebody he loved. And so when she came back, he coached her again. So he was like her coach, and then she like went off the rails and was like basically like, you don't know, I'm gonna go get the hottest tennis coach, not hot, like you know what I mean, like the best of the
Popular,
best. And then she ended up having to retire and then come back with her dad. And so I just feel like that brought her back in an emotional way that wouldn't have happened with just like a regular coach. So yeah,
Sounds very dynamic right there. Did this story inspire you, frustrate you, or make you rethink what a comeback means?
I think it was inspiring. I think it was all of the above, honestly. It was really inspiring. A lot of it, not a lot of it, the end frustrated me. And I think rethinking what a comeback means, I think that was part, like, the intention behind it, right? Because she's coming back, but she learned so much more than just, like, coming back to, like, defend her records. And, like, she ended up meeting a guy who actually played at the same time as her, and he was trying to come back out of retirement. So then they trained together, excuse me. And she developed a relationship like through that as well. And like I said, kind of just finding her identity outside of just being at the top 24/7. It kind of shows you a little bit of that, like, as cheesy as it is, like, that's not everything in life. Like, you can have all those things, but like being this person who cares about others and who knows who you are, like, that is what the comeback is. And being grounded in that. And so yeah, I think all of it was a really good comeback story. There's a lot out there, and so I feel like it makes it hard because there's so many out there that it kind of becomes the same thing over and over again. And I don't feel like this was. I also don't feel like you see a lot of tennis.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's kind of like, not to be like it's a random sport to choose, but I feel like you see a lot more like football, basketball, baseball. Yeah. And so, which is great too, but I just found it really interesting, especially as a sport that I love so much. And yeah, it was such a good book. And there were so many moments that I had that were, like I said, I probably need to take a closer look at, because I related to her so hard, you guys. Like, I don't even know how to explain. I was barely even into the book, and I called Miranda immediately because this one part, there's two parts that I want to talk about. But this first one, it was pretty early on in the book, and she is out practicing on the court with her dad. They like just decided to like do the comeback, and her manager comes up, and her dad like goes and gives the manager a hug, and her inner dialogue is like, I'll just never understand why people feel the need to hug each other. Like, and she's like, a handshake is more than enough. Why do you feel the need to push your bodies up against each other to say hello? And honestly, I was like, thank you. Okay, I do not enjoy hugs. I do it because I know other people do, but it's pretty well known amongst people close to me that that's not something I enjoy. So when she said it, I about died because I was like, could this book be made for me anymore? And so I was dying, and I immediately told her, and she was like, that's hilarious. And then the other part where I felt just so seen was towards the end. She was like kind of going through something big, and the guy who I'd mentioned that was also having his comeback and was training with her and all that, he was trying to like be there for her and just support her. And she would have a smoothie like every day for breakfast. And so he was trying to be helpful, and he was like making her smoothies in the morning. And she was like, again, her inner dialogue was saying, you know, I obviously appreciate him making the smoothie, but I don't know how to tell him he's putting it in the wrong cup without like yelling at him, and I don't want to yell at him, so I just don't say anything. And I was like, oh my gosh, because that is how I feel so much of the time, is like, I know people have good intentions for doing things for me, but then it just irks me because I'm like, you're doing it wrong, but I can't say that because that's mean. So you have this internal struggle of like, I want to be nice, and I do appreciate like the effort, but it's gonna bother me so much that this is incorrect. And so I just loved that so much about her. I just feel like I really understood her as a character. And the comeback story was so fun, and obviously I love tennis, so I thought it was great.
Yeah. That myself.
Yeah. That was a good one.
I'm glad. Those two, yeah, I remember you calling me on those two parts, and I was just like cracking up. I was like, dang. This book was written for her.
Yeah, it really was. Okay, so as we said, I picked Wild Dark Shore for Miranda, which is also so funny because I had picked this book before we had also ended up picking Once There Were Wolves, which is the same author. Yeah. And that was the first book I think either one of us had read by her.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a weird coincidence that happened, but here we are.
Here we are.
So McConaughey has a signature, moody, nature-rich setting, something we saw in Once There Were Wolves. How does the environment act almost like its own character?
Specifically in this book, they have they're very secluded. So they're on an island. This island, it's a very long boat ride to get. I can't remember how long it was, but it was very long. It wasn't very convenient. It was treacherous to get to. They were only getting supplies every 6 to 8 months. And so they really had to, what's the word? Portion. They had to like portion. What is the word I'm looking for?
Like I don't know. Like they had to be mindful of like resources and stuff.
Ration. That is it. Ration out what they had, and a lot of their resources came from the land. So they were very heavily reliant on the environment. The environment was very harsh. They did not have any running water or heat, or it would all be fires. So it was very back into the Stone Ages of things. So like if they wanted to take a bath, they had to heat it with with fire, and how they got the wood for the fires. They have to chop all of the wood, and so it's just, I can't imagine living like that. So it is very much impactful on the lives for sure in these characters.
So you feel like it's the same as like having a whole other character in because of the like amount of impact it had on everybody else.
Yes, it was very impactful to everybody else. They have to really think about, do I really want to heat up this much water to,
All the things.
Yeah, because they had to go like walk forever to go get water from this well or spring or something. So it wasn't even readily available. They'd have to like go with buckets and get it.
Yeah. So there was a lot of emotional complexity within the main character. Some resilience, grief, and connection to the natural world. What did you think, I guess, about her as you got to know her more?
So
it's like bringing in all these different things, because you kind of learned about her slower in this book.
Yeah. So Rowan is the main character, the girl, and well, I guess there's two. It's like, but mainly her. So Rowan, she goes to this island because her husband was there and he called for help, and she didn't hear anything back, so she decided to go there. So right off the bat, like, they have this like weird kind of relationship because they're married, but they have resentment for each other. Like, he wanted kids, she didn't. She wanted to continue living, her family land. Some family land ended up, getting destroyed. And then he went off to do his research, and he'd be gone, months and months at a time. So they had like a really complex relationship going into it. And then I'm getting off topic here. Resilience, grief, connection. So grief into it, she thinks that, I'm not too sure about the grief. While losing the land caught fire. And it was, I think the most grief she felt was for her property. She put a lot of resources.
And she built the house herself, like physically built the house herself.
Yeah. She physically built the house herself. She physically made all of these gardens, like rows and rows and rows of gardening. In addition to that, she had a bunch of animals, farm animals, all these kinds of things. And there was, I believe it was a wildfire that caught, and it ended up spreading to her property. And in that, she was trying to, save some things. And in that time, she was seeing all of her work just like literally burn to the ground. And it was honestly so sad because she was talking about watching the animals pass in the fire. And she's like, it was very emotionally devastating. And I think she was very wrecked on that, kept stating that she didn't want to rebuild it because it took too much out of her, and then losing it the way that she did, I think she wouldn't want to experience that again, obviously. I think it would be, I think that is the biggest grief that she felt. I know she went to go find her husband, but honestly, it kind of seemed like an afterthought. It's like, I should go because he needs help, but
yeah. Well, I think that so full disclosure here, after I gave Miranda the book, I decided to go ahead and read it. But so they had they ended things when he left to go do his research on the island. They ended things very in not a good place. Yeah. And he because he, like you said, was wanting kids and all this stuff. And I don't think he also really understood her connection to her house and her land and all these things. And so that also caused a lot of friction. So yeah, we learn, I feel like you got really that's part of it being a thriller, right? You're only getting like little pieces of the main character and then like of the family and then
Yeah.
of her husband and everything. And so I think that built a lot of tension in the main character.
I think so too, because you really get a feel for where her like emotional state is, I feel like, in a lot of her headspace, because she put a lot of effort into things that she felt meaningful to her that are unconventional to the average person. So
Yeah.
I feel like, yes, he loved her because her husband, Hank,
Yeah.
he loved her, but and that she would come around, but she was very set in her ways that she didn't want children because of the way the world is. She doesn't want to bring them into like environment kind of like this, and she was very adamant on that. And he was trying to get her to come around, and she was very resilient in her own, perception and her own stance and things. So I think that really, like you were saying, put a drift into the relationship, and he wanted what he wanted, and she just was kind of in a state of loss because she's grieving her property and what she's put a bunch of her time and effort and love into, and he doesn't see it that way.
Yeah, it's pretty complex. So some of the big themes were human survival, healing, and our relationship to the like wilderness, to the natural world. What theme do you feel like resonated most with you?
I would say basic necessities. Reading this book, it really strips you down to what a human is. So it's very easy in like living this blessed life to realize like how everything is so convenient, So just getting there was hard. She had to obviously get on the boat. She was traveling to the island to find her separated husband because he needed help. And while she was going there, there was a really bad storm and the boat ended up capsizing. So she was in like this really bad boat accident. And I believe it was one of the children found her and was pulling her to shore. And the dad, Dominic, helped them once they got there or close to there or something. And she was very badly injured. Like she was torn up between the boat accident, the very sharp rocks. She was very close to drowning because of the weather, being the storm and all these things. So Dominic, patched her up. And what really resonated me, like what stuck with me in this book, was the instance where he was mending her. While he was mending her, like he did, she said, a very crude job of stitching her up, but he's not a doctor, like he's just, I think he was like an army something, so he's just like medevac. But he was like stitching her up, and she's like realizing like how damaged she was, and she was kind of heartbroken on it because she was seeing herself like very in this way. And he told her it's just a body, you're still alive. It's like, don't worry about it. Essentially, it's like, it's just this thing. You're alive, you're still able to move, you still have all your limbs, all these things. Yeah. And so I think that really helped her in like shifting, like, yes, this happened, yes, it was bad, but in addition to that, I'm also okay.
Yeah.
So
yeah, which I felt like helped her a lot through like some of her other stuff that she was going through, like with her husband, because like her not wanting to have kids, or like with her property and things like that. So like that learned resilience, and her seeing it with Dominic and the children. So something really funny I just wanted to point out was in both of our books, the mom had died.
Damn.
So I don't know what that means, but I thought that was really interesting. So like her seeing like all their resilience to everything, and like these young kids, and then this dad who had lost his wife and like the mother of his children and everything. I think it really taught her a lot of resilience in some of the stuff that she was going on.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So the writing style is very lyrical and has a haunting prose. Do you feel like it was really immersive, or do you feel like it was too heavy at times?
I didn't feel that way. I felt like it went very well with the type of novel that it was because it is a type of survival, right? Essentially, is how I read it was a survival because they're cut off, their resources are cut off, they're living off the land. There is an underlying thriller element to it, a budding romance. So I felt that the writing really complemented all of the major themes of the book. So I felt like it really flowed very well. I didn't think that it was heavy. I would lean more immersive on the writing. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that too. Which I kind of said earlier in like one of the other questions, was like this is kind of her style of writing of like this like really intense like wilderness like type of thing, but that's kind of how it is, right? Like it can be super beautiful and teach you so many lessons, but it's also like so harsh, and I think that's like a good mirror of life, right? That's like the ultimate lessons that in her books. But I agree with you. I think it was like really immersive. I could for sure picture like that island and how harsh like the storms were and everything like that.
Yeah, even like the brush and like the way she described the environment, the snow, how the, you know, how they're, what is it called? I think the lighthouse and like their little, I don't want to say cabin, but it's a very small like hut or something.
Yeah.
So it really put into perspective of like how they're actually living on this island.
So this book was super emotional, had like high emotional impact. Do you feel did it leave you contemplative, hopeful, or a little haunted? Or something else?
I had a lot of thoughts with this book. I did have, I don't know if it was more emotional. I don't think I really got emotional in this book. I think it was more insightful and impactful in that way. Because the way that her writing is, like between the Once There Are Wolves and this one, it really strips the characters down to like their beings, right? Yeah. And I think it really highlights like what is actually important in life, and it makes you introspective of like what is actually really important to you. So that's how I interpreted the book and how I saw it.
So more contemplative, like it makes you contemplate like like look at your life really hard and be like, this is crazy, and they're like literally just like this is what it means to be a human, like without all the other like yes, and what it means to be a human in like the natural world. It's super interesting. So that's all the like questions I have for your book. So then we've got a few kind of wrap up for our overall for both of us.
Before we get into that, I do want to say, like, one of my favorite things about this book. I was going to ask you in yours, but you went straight into it.
Okay, yeah, there you go. Good job.
So one of the biggest things that I liked was, I've already mentioned where he was like, it's just a body, like, you're okay. I really liked that. And then I also, on this island, Hank, her husband that went missing, his research had to do with like these seeds, like these trees. And they were in this very, very cold freezer. It's like this special, I don't remember how cold it was. I don't know if you do.
I don't, not off the top of my head. It was like a preservative, because they were trying to preserve basically like every seed ever. In case of
yes. And I liked how they were that there was like over 3 million seeds, like 3 million different trees in this thing. And I liked how the little boy, Hank, made a relationship with one of the little boys, and the little boy was always asking like, well, this seed came from like whenever dinosaurs were roaming the earth. And then this seed, it's very hard to get this seed because it's so tiny, you can't harvest it. It has to fall on this fungus, and then we get it from the fungus. And so I really liked that part of it because it wasn't necessarily needed for the story, but I also thought it added like this type of bonding moment between the children and the other residents and other researchers on this island. So I thought it was really cute. And I also liked that they were seeds and he was just very worried about them between like leaving and having to choose which ones that could stay and which ones they would take and preserve and which ones of these would be lost, because a lot of these seeds and trees have not gone alive.
Yeah.
So I liked that. That was one of my favorite parts.
Yeah, that was cool. I think I agree with you, like that it wasn't necessarily needed, but it did create like even more depth to the story. It was like super scientific and really interesting, and also created emotional depth because, like you were saying, like how do you choose? How do you choose what gets saved and what doesn't? Whenever you're talking about things that like will no longer be available to us, will no longer be on Earth, and so it was like another layer to that, like human evolution, humans with the natural world, all that. So yeah, I thought that was funny too. That was a good one. Cool. Okay, so our books. How did it feel to read something chosen for you instead of by you?
I mean, it was nice. I think I liked it because you chose it and we know each other very well. I think I would be nervous if it was, a coworker that we know just like in a work environment, or you know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
I don't know.
I was too. I was like,
nice.
I know you know me, and so like there was like at least that sense of security, but it was a little different than just being like somebody recommending a book to you and saying like, oh hey, like I think that you would enjoy it, and like you choosing to like go ahead and read it on your own versus like, I don't want to say we forced each other, but
yeah,
like we kind of did. Obviously we wanted to do it for this episode, and so it was very much like you're committed beforehand. There's a little bit of pressure there because it's like, oh, what if I don't like it? Like,
yeah,
all the things.
I also was having a hard time. Like, do I have to read these books before I recommend it? Because I can't
read all of the ones I think could be a possibility before. Yeah.
So, and I was just like, you know what?
So that was definitely another interesting aspect of it, was us recommending a book that we had never read, because I don't think I've ever done that before. It's always been like, I read a book, I loved it, and then I have thought, person XYZ would like it because of whatever with them, their personality, their life, whatever. And so to go with just basically like the summary of the book and maybe like a few other details that you could like find online without spoiling it also made it a lot more pressure to like hope that you would like it as well. Because I'm like, what if it's not what I think it is based on what I'm reading?
Yeah, it was nerve-wracking. I think I was more stressed about picking it than I was about you reading it. Because if you read it and you don't like it, well, and I liked it and I read it and you didn't like it, it's okay. But if I picked it and you don't like it, then I'm like, well, I don't know.
I think it was like specifically for each other too. It wasn't like I read it, I liked it, I think you'll like it. Oh, you didn't? Okay, cool. But like to pick it with you in mind, like specifically actively looking for a book, yeah, that was interesting.
Did the book you read push you outside your usual reading comfort zone?
Yes. I already kind of said, I wouldn't say like crazy far out or anything. Like you said, I've been kind of like reading a little bit more contemporary stuff. But I also don't know, we all have a never ending TBR list, right? So like, I don't know that I would have seen it and like pushed it to the top of the list basically. Maybe one day, and I don't think it was like so far out of my comfort zone, but I do feel like it got me to read something that I maybe wouldn't have had at the top of the list.
Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like this book is honestly right up my alley. The only thing that is different than other ones that I've read is that it has more of a survival undertone of it.
Mm-hmm.
So it is unique in that way and the books that I have read, but this book is definitely right up the alley of books that I would pick
Yeah.
up. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like that's it's like kind of like the same. Like it is something like we would enjoy normally, but there's like an aspect to it that maybe like we wouldn't have necessarily.
Yeah.
done.
Which is kind of interesting that we both did that.
Yeah. So good for us. Good for us. What was the biggest surprise for you, either about the story itself or your reaction to it?
It's the biggest surprise. I'm gonna say my reaction to the book, because usually after like a romance or a thriller, I feel like especially with the thriller, oh, I figured it out, or I'm always trying to like figure out what the twist is or what it actually happened, or like with a romance, I just like leading up to the journey.
Yeah.
What my reaction to the end of this book, it did sit with me. Like I still think about this book based off of like the bare bones of it. And I know I've been saying that a lot, but it really makes you think about like putting things into perspective of like what actually matters.
Yeah.
And so let's say my introspectiveness of the book was a different take that I,
surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think kind of along the same vein, I think what surprised me the most was me relating so much to the main character. I was not expecting that, especially like with a comeback story. Like we all love that and love to see it, but like I don't feel like a lot of us necessarily like resonate with that as like personally. We just are like cheering them on, and I feel like with her personality and everything, I just was like I relate so hard to her. And so I was really surprised by that. So yeah, I think that was my biggest one.
Did you end up loving the book more or less than you expected?
I think more. Again, I was kind of going into it with the mindset of like, because I knew it was like about her coming out of retirement and stuff, so I knew it was kind of like a comeback story. But I really enjoyed the story behind like that main story a lot more than I thought. I really did.
Nice.
Yeah.
I ended up liking it more. I liked the sacrifice in the book. I liked the journey that it took in the thriller aspect. I wasn't expecting the way the thriller angle of this book was going. I wasn't some of those things I'm not sure. It just did throw me for a loop. I wasn't expecting some of it, so it was a nice surprise. And you also forget that there is a thriller. There is a mystery in the book at some point. So I did ended up liking it because it wasn't specifically one thing. It was all these things combined and not necessarily all at the same time.
Yeah. Love that. What do you think makes a great book gift?
Honestly, I think we both nailed it. I don't know if that's jumping the gun too quickly, but I think in that the book really checks off a lot of the boxes that the person would like, but also puts them in that makes it linger with them. It's like sometimes you read a book and then you're like, oh, I remember that book. That was, pretty good. But then there are some times when you read a book and you're like, you think about that book every now and then. It comes up randomly when you see something or whenever you're in the middle of a conversation and then you think of that book. So I think that makes a really good book gift whenever it's like it checks a lot of boxes off of a person's list, but is also like gives insightfulness, or it gives like these little memories that stick with you.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's funny because I don't usually give books as gifts. Not to be like, I feel like reading is so personal. Like there's so much taste involved, and I feel like especially to choose something that you don't know or like maybe out of their comfort zone, I feel like you just have to know the person so well. And so I just generally don't unless like they've told me that they like the book or want to read the book or something like that. I think that this ended up really well. So maybe it's something that I would consider more in the future as well. But yeah, I'm with you. I think just kind of like really taking into consideration the person and having to step outside like of what do I think is a good book and being like, oh, I know them and like I think that they would think this is a great book, or like you said, like it's gonna come back for them, it's gonna be something that sticks with them. I agree with you on that.
Yeah. I think I agree with you. It's hard because I agree. Reading is a personal thing.
Yeah.
So it's like almost like a journal.
Yeah.
How it's interpreted. Is it about matching someone's tastes or introducing them to something new? The book giving.
Yeah. So I really think it's both.
Yeah.
Honestly, like going through this experience, I think it's both because I think you have to take into consideration, like there are books that like I'm not gonna recommend to you because I just don't think you would enjoy the journey at all. But so I think there's like some of that to come into play, but also I think there's something to be said about like knowing someone so well that you're like, this is like for them. And so I think it's a little bit of both of like, hey, I know that like this is a base of what you like, but here's something that like, because I know you, I feel you will also really enjoy if you just kind of like step out a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a mix.
I agree a lot with that because a lot of the times, yes, I read a lot of thrillers and I do read a lot of fantasy and romance, and after a while it starts blending in, like all the stories start to like really have the same pace, like have the same twists but slightly different, under some different stories told in different the same stories told in different methods. So I do think that putting something different in your tastes definitely would stick out, especially it makes you think of that person that gave you that book as they're actually like paying attention to what I like,
Yeah.
So I do agree.
Would you do this again next year?
I would love to do this again next year. Is it gonna go as great as it did this year?
I don't know. I think it's fun though. It's interesting to see like what like for each other. I don't know that I would do it with just anybody, that's for sure. But like for us specifically, yeah, I agree. I would do it again.
Yeah, I thought the whole process of it was really fun too. I was like so nervous of picking out a book for you. I did not care at all whatever book you picked,
Yeah. That was funny because like that's how I felt too. I was like so like I was nerve-wrackingly like trying to pick something, and then I was like, I'm probably gonna love anything she picks. But like I was so like, what if I pick something horrible?
Yeah. She's gonna give me a 5-star read and I'm gonna give her 2.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah. But I thought it was good. I would love to do this again next year.
Yeah. Agreed.
So overall thoughts and ratings of the book.
So writing style, I love it. I love her writing. I think it's so interesting. I love the mix of like real world and then these like obviously fictional, this fictional world mixed with like real world. And I just love her writing. I love how she puts in like with this one with the commentary or like doing the interview style and her in Daisy Jones was really interesting. It's just a really different, like you don't see it a lot. And I feel like, even though I've only read a couple of hers, I feel like her writing style is recognizable. And I like that. The story engagement, I really loved it. I feel like it was a really good, like up and down. It wasn't, super slow the first half and then like built up. I feel like it had a good flow to it of things of like her young and learning and then having this career and then coming down and then like trying to come back and then like some other stuff that had happened and just kind of seeing her journey through that. It was really good. Like I said, kind of ups and downs. My overall rating was a 4.5. It was so close to a 5-star for me. It was
Wow.
really just the movie that got me. I thought it was so, so good. I really enjoyed it a lot.
I'm so glad.
Yeah. Yours.
This is the second book we both read. This is a newer author to me. I actually really enjoy her writing style. So I think it gives like a very rawness to her writing style. I think she gives a really good storytelling. Her characters are always very like gruff and unique, and they have their own, they're like set in their own ways. I really enjoy the writing style. It is very different. I don't want to say different, but the tone of her writing style is very different than others. So I enjoy that she has her own like niche tone in writing, and all of the 2 books that I've read of hers. So
Yeah.
her story engagement. So her story engagement, I think it ebbs and flows, but I think it also goes with the tone of how what the story is. So I like that it kind of goes like this because it gives you this journey of the setting of the environment that they're in. So it gives you like some happy like moments, some like kind of on edge moments, some like peak moments, some like I feel like it kind of just ebbs and flows, but I think that goes with the story that she is telling. Overall rating of the book, I gave this book a 4.25. I I could not give it. I thought it was better than a 4, but I don't think it was quite a 0.5. There's like some things about it that I just like, and it has to do with the character,
Yeah.
So, I really like the main ones. There's like some parts in the journey that did get me like the ick. But there's also a lot of it that really was, I think, was really good storytelling and character building and like relationship and all of that. So I give it a 4.25.
Nice. I feel like that's pretty good, solid ratings for neither one of us having read the book that we just recommended, and for it to be like
A random book.
honestly, for anything above like a 3, like a middle of the road, I feel like is impressive to me. Like I said, having like us not having read the book, like we only went off of the summary, the vibes, like that's it. And so for each of us to feel like it was a pretty good book.
Yeah.
So love it.
Yes.
So we have the TBR jar for our next read. Pull that out. Lucky one. It is going to be The Mountain Is You. That should be interesting this time of year.
Yeah. I mean, it is, like you were saying, going into the new year, I guess.
Well, that's the next read.
So now's your chance to grab a copy and meet us here next Sunday. We'll have many thoughts,